He's Black Guy Fawkes, and I'm stealing punk rock valor, and together we are Fawkes and Friends. Today, the third friend we are talking to about creativity and social justice is Johnny Mariott of Pet Needs.
1, 2, 3, 4. From coast to coast, from sea to shining sea, what he got is fucking long. His land's not made for you and me. We're chatting built the wall as we tear down bottom stalls. And watch our kids get slaughtered as they run straight through the hall. Let's go!
Ian, welcome to the first regular episode of your podcast, Fawkes and Friends. Who are we talking to today?
Today, we are talking to Johnny Mariott of Pet Needs, Johnny's lead singer, and their new record, Intermittent Fast Living, comes out February 16th. So we're going to sit down with them to talk about what makes Johnny who he is, his DIY scene in Colchester, England, and about the songwriting style. And at any point, as always, if you'd like to check out any of my music as well, you can go to Essex Records to order yourself a vinyl or a t-shirt and visit my website, blackguyfawkes.com, for any upcoming shows.
And you guys really should do that. I certainly have a whole bunch of it myself, not surprisingly. Before we talk to Johnny Mariott of Pet Needs, let's play one of their tracks. If you're listening on Spotify Premium, you are going to get the full experience of Sleep When I'm Dead by Pet Needs. This is the third single that has been released in advance of their third album, Intermittent Fast Living, which comes out February 16th. It's anthemic and maybe their pop-punkiest or poppiest punk song yet.
I would say so.
Joining us all the way from Colchester in the UK today is Johnny Mariott of Pet Needs. Johnny, so good to see you again, man.
Oh, lovely to see you again, Ed. Good to see you, Ian. How are you both doing?
Doing pretty good. Living a dream.
Nice. Same here.
Speaking of that dream that you're living, you guys are currently working on a new dream, a pretty brilliant marketing campaign for the new album, Intermittent Fast Living, that is coming out just in 2 short weeks. Tell us about this Bottom of the Pops thing.
So we have a new album that's coming out in a couple of weeks called Intermittent Fast Living. For me, it's my favorite piece of work we've ever done. And we're in a really interesting time in the music industry in the UK, whereby the chart companies haven't quite caught up with like the impact of streaming and people reducing the amount of physicals they buy and things. And there's still something, I wouldn't quite call it a loophole, but it's something where if you are creative and you can mobilize a group of people to buy multiple versions of the same album, then you can get your, hopefully, fingers crossed, get your album into the UK top 40, which when you start a band, when you're a child, that's always the thing that you've always dreamt of. And so we've released a campaign called the Bottom of the Pops campaign, where we've done 12 different versions of our CD, each kind of paying homage to a TV show called Top of the Pops throughout the years. It's a TV show in the UK. And if you buy all 12 of them, it becomes something that's collectible, something that's frameable, and it also counts as 12 sales towards the chart. So hopefully with a comparatively low group of passionate and mobilized people, we can get into the British top 40, which would be mind-blowing.
Well, I can really see that happening because you guys had an incredible year last year, honestly. Just seeing how you guys just kind of blow up. Well, granted, it was over here in the US, but I remember seeing how busy it was at Lost Evenings when we first met. When you guys say Mike, just a month or two after that, you were on a Salty Dog cruise, and you guys just kept jumping up in venue sizes. So how did those shows work out?
The Lost Evening show, that was really weird, that one actually, because we'd been booked to play the open mic. I know that you had a proper slot on a proper stage, didn't you? But we had been told that we were going to fly across the ocean and do a little tour with one of our friends, and then just play an open mic. And we thought, okay, we'd be up for it, but we'll see what happens. And then we ended up playing it. It was in the House of Blues, and there was a House of Blues sign behind us, and we stuck a little Pet Needs banner over it. So it said the House of Pet Needs. And then suddenly something that felt like quite a tame affair for the rest of the weekends. And it was like, seems to be a real kind of like focused and really supportive room. And then lots of different people were getting up and like sharing their own music. Suddenly turned into chaos. Really. It was raucous. It was really, really fun. It was amazing. And everyone was really supportive. I think the fact that we've toured with Frank Turner so much around the UK, around Europe and around America really, really helped. And it was really life affirming. And I really like the fact that our shows can be quite big and noisy, but then I really like it when we can strip it back just to 2 voices and 2 acoustic guitars. I think that's really, really nice. And the fact that the songs hold up like that. And then the Salted Dog Cruise is a really interesting place to exist, because when you're a touring musician, especially when you do support tours and stuff, a lot of the time, like all your food is free and all your alcohol is free, and you kind of get used to that. But we were on a cruise with 3,500 people where all the food was free and all the alcohol was free for every single person on that cruise. And it was really weird. It was like 5 days, but the 5 days kind of stretched into like one long day where people were partying for so long. And again, I think we kind of got lucky because we toured with Flogging Molly before. And also we toured with the Bouncing Souls who played that cruise before. And we toured with Frank Turner who played that cruise before. So it felt like so much of our audience was on that cruise. And we had to like upgrade rooms, and it was just absolute chaos to be honest, Ian. But yeah, so much fun.
Is there any like technical challenge to playing on a cruise ship, or is it smooth sailing as they say it is for terms of the wibbly wobbly of a boat?
For us as musicians, it was all right, but they'd built a half pipe and had pro skaters on the cruise as well. And they were all like obviously brilliant. I watched them one night when it was quite calm and they were landing all these amazing tricks. And then they were booked to do it another night where it's like really choppy, and trying to see people kind of like land complex tricks on a half pipe on the sea when it was choppy was really, really hard. We played one show, which was like right at the end of the boat, and you could feel things kind of like moving and rocking a little bit more. But that was kind of nice because it almost made you remember that you were on a boat as well, because all of our gigs were inside. One of them just felt like we were playing kind of like a little club, and the one felt like we were playing a theatre. But the one like right at the end of the ship, it was kind of cool to feel it rocking as we were rocking,
That's fucking insane. I was just so proud to see you guys just do that. My first time hearing you, I heard you guys before like the 50 days tour with Frank, and I just really just did another deep dive into your music, and I must say, you're so poetic with your words, man. Like all the songs I've heard from your first record on to Primetime Entertainment, it's just incredible. Like I even last night I was really vibing out to a Spin Cycle Span. It's such a moving song. I do kind of wonder when it comes to your writing process, how does that work with Pet Needs?
About 90% of the songs, I'd say, unless you do one that kind of, there's a couple of songs on our first album that started with riffs, but majority of the songs just start with me in my spare room, which is directly above here, on a battered acoustic guitar. And they all just start with the first lyric of they start right at the start of the song. So if I'm starting with the chorus or starting with the verse, I don't really know, but it always starts with the first lyric and kind of builds from there, really. I used to keep a little book with me that I was writing things down. I don't write things down physically as much as I'd like to. A lot of it are in like voice notes, and a lot of it are like note section on my phone now. But everything that we do kind of like starts with the first words of the first verse, and it kind of like runs in a really like linear perspective, which means that some of our songs can sound kind of like standard punk songs, but then some, like we just released one called The Optimist, which is almost like just a stream of consciousness thing that doesn't really have a chorus in the same way. And then the song that you talk about is The Spin Cycle Span. was literally about a man who came to fix that washing machine in the corner over here. And he came in and he was really, really quite grumpy at the start. And then I offered him a cup of coffee, and then he saw this canvas on here that we bought from a junk shop. And it's of Sid and Nancy, Sid Vicious and Sex Pistols, and Nancy Spungen. And we just started talking about music and got talking about creativity. And there's been a little bit of a poetic license to make the story more cyclical and more well-rounded. But yeah, it's kind of like a true story based on a guy that works in a shop about half a mile that way that I think is absolutely completely unaware that he's had a song written about him. And I don't know if he'll ever hear it. But yeah, he was a massive inspiration for it. And when things like that were written, I never knew that I was going to play them really outside of Colchester or outside of East Anglia in the area I live. So be able to play that song just off the coast of Mexico on a ship was really bizarre.
Petney's has taken you guys officially all over the world now, into all sorts of venues. I've seen you in smaller venues. I've seen you at the House of Blues in Anaheim. And I know there's just going to be even more stuff like that. Is there a difference between like touring over there if you're supporting Flogging Molly through Europe, or touring through the US with Frank or with Skinny Lister or with the Bouncing Souls? Like, is there a difference in touring between the continents?
I think there's a difference between touring within countries throughout Europe as well. When you're touring Germany, they very much get to the front straight away, and people get their beers at the start, and then no one really leaves their spot. They're kind of so focused on the music, and they're really, really supportive. But then in Germany, it's often one of the places where you find the front couple of rows are people that are like following the whole tour around as well. Our merch person, Vanessa, she's not actually been to America with us yet, but hopefully she will do. But she does like Europe with us and does the UK with us. And she's exactly the same. And we had a day off and we went to a music festival called Mainstream. And she got through the front gate and then just absolutely just beeline for a stage, like marched through people. We were just seeing her kind of like whizzing through people. She could just see her hat like going through the crowd. And she found her spot and she just didn't move from her spot. And that's kind of the German way. But then I think in America, what I love about America is people kind of want you to win. In England, and this isn't true for mainland Europe really, but in England, I think especially as a support band, the kind of audience approach depends on the band you're touring with. We got really lucky that we were touring with Frank Turner, but we did a couple of gigs opening for the Hives. And it was almost like when we walked on, people weren't excited or ready to be impressed. It was more like, you had to kind of like battle to get the attention. And once you had the attention, you had to kind of like then try and impress them. Whereas in America, it feels like as soon as you go on stage, and I don't know if it's through being English or the fact that we're kind of really chatty, but it feels like when you go on stage in America, people really want you to win, which is really cool. But then it changes with the bands that you're touring with as well. I think my favorite bands to tour America with so far, actually, they've all been good, but I really love the Bouncing Souls tour because that felt like we were really in the punk scene then, which was really nice. And the rooms were kind of 500 to 1,000 cap. But it's really amazing to tour America and for the first time really see a subculture and a real kind of like safe space that they'd built as well. And it kind of, I went away feeling really inspired by the kind of subcultures of America after that tour.
I flew down to see that in Atlanta, and I fucked up horribly by leaving the venue and realizing I couldn't come back in. So I really did fly down just to see you guys, if you remember. But the culture that they built, Ian, it was great. Like, there was a guy who was probably like 10 years older than me, so he was pretty old, who was there with his 16-year-old daughter, and he just looked at me and another friend is like, you guys can watch out for her a little bit, right? So she can be right. Like, yeah, dude, absolutely. That's the one thing. Like, everyone's always so shocked, but like the punk scene in the US is really fucking wholesome. Like, kind of across the board. Would you say the same thing, Ian?
Ish. I've had some bad encounters in the punk scene, but for the most part, it's pretty wholesome. Like, everybody looks out for each other. And it's not like in the hardcore scene where everybody's just trying to crowd kill and just fuck up everyone. Everybody's looking out for one another. Johnny, I'm curious, what are your top 3 states that you visited?
This is so hard because our first tour that we did with Frank Turner was the 50 States in 50 Days tour. So I've got a lot to choose from. I've officially visited 46 states now because we did all of the kind of full band gigs with him, and then he would hop over borders to do like acoustic shows and stuff as well. I'll talk about my 3 favorite places rather than states, I think. because my first one, I think, is maybe not my favorite state, but it's one of my favorite places, was when we played in Austin in Texas. As someone from the UK, you have a very particular view of what Texas is. And driving through Texas, some of those stereotypes were like confirmed. But then we got to Austin, and there was these like Black Lives Matter murals and loads of kind of like pride stuff everywhere. And then suddenly I was like, I'm in Texas and this is awesome. It was amazing. I was kind of surprised by how it felt really liberal, really wholesome, which was really cool. I think my second favorite state, but again, I can't trust the whole state because I kind of, actually this one I've been around a little bit more. But usually we just kind of go into one particular place and then go out again. But we did a little run of shows going down to Anaheim. We did a little run of shows with Micah Schnabel and Vanessa Jean Speckman, and they were all around California. And we were playing kind of like coffee shops and like little, like a lot of the time we were playing in front of 40, 50 people. And what Micah and Vanessa have done throughout their career, throughout their DIY career, is just built a community all over the States of really cool little art spaces, and they built connections everywhere. So I wasn't just seeing a place through like the eyes of like a House of Blues or something. I was actually playing, like we played one show in San Diego where they'd got loads of local artists, and it was then because Vanessa and Micah had booked all these local artists as well to have exhibitions all around the outside of the show, which was really, really nice. And it felt like walking into a little market of independent art. So that was amazing. And then I think for me, what I'd count as a kind of real American experience, I really enjoyed playing in Chicago as well, and enjoyed being in Chicago. That's where I went full on what an English person would think America's like. And I went to see the baseball, and I got a little blue foam finger, and I got like a yard of ale inside a big plastic baseball bat and things like that. So I kind of like really led into it. But there's so many places I've had so much fun and met so many amazing people all over the country. So that's really, really hard to say. If you ask me tomorrow, it might be a different three.
I've always loved playing in Chicago, honestly. That's one of my favorite places to go. Both playing there, the food is incredible. Going back to Colchester, let's talk about the DIY scene there. How do you describe the music scene in Colchester? Well, you're in a panel at Los Angeles about the DIY scene and working in the DIY community. What would you say your part in the DIY scene in Colchester is?
Colchester is an interesting place in the fact that this is going to sound weird to you two because these distances aren't going to sound very far, but then because the UK is so small, people just don't travel for shows in the same way. So Colchester is about 60 miles east of the centre of London, and then it's about 40 miles south of Norwich. Norwich is a big kind of like university city, and it's got a really cool big venue. So all the big bands that come through, they'll go to Norwich, and then they'll leapfrog Colchester, and they'll go to London, and they won't really kind of stop in Colchester as much, which means that the people of Colchester have had to kind of like build their own scene. Our kind of biggest export is a band called Blur, who are like a Britpop band. Their influence still kind of like sees through into the music that we make now. It's really interesting. Even people that like, there's new bands coming up now that may not have even heard of Blur. They've been like 16, 17 years old, but they still have that little tinge to them, and you can see their music coming through. My job in the Colchester scene and kind of like building things in Colchester, my two jobs before doing the music full time, one was being a events organizer over at the University of Essex. And that was putting on things like kind of fireworks displays and little gigs and like markets and things. And then before that, I was like an events organizer, organizing fundraising events and autism charity as well. But I was kind of like working with Colchester venues and putting cool things on. But the way that I got into that, I had no official experience really before, but it was through just putting on shows and just working in the local scene. And now when I come back to Colchester, I'm in Colchester now, but I do not spend hardly any amount of time here anymore. Definitely not as much as I'd want to. But we just kind of get involved with everything as much as we can. We kind of like play little shows here or like secret shows as well. But then something I'm doing week after next, which I got to do last year as well, is we're working with young people and doing some mentorship stuff at a local college battle of the bands. And I don't usually like battle of bands. I don't really think that people should be kind of like pitted against each other in such a way, especially when people are doing artistic endeavors. But this is a way that seems to be like really supportive and really wholesome. And it's amazing now to feel like I'm a bit more of a elder statesman of the scene when you've got like 16-year-olds that are writing amazing music. It was one of the proudest things that I did this time last year. And I'm super excited to do that again. But the scene's amazing. It's full of really cool people who just like really want to build things, and it's still got that DIY kind of ethic because it hasn't got like your kind of House of Blues or Fillmore or anything like that. Everything's built in little rooms. I think that's why we've got such a close knit scene really as well.
When you talk about mentorship and mentoring younger, newer acts, what are kind of the issues that face younger folks over there? Maybe not just musically, but culturally, societally. Ian and I are, we're Americans, so we might not know. I mean, really, my only knowledge of a lot of politics stuff in the UK is from songs, all of them still somewhat referencing Margaret Thatcher, whether it's Sinead O'Connor or Frank Turner doing it. So what are some of the key pressing issues that affect people in your community there?
Well, do you know what? For young people now, and my wife, Lorna, she works in a mental health department over at the university. So we both used to work kind of at the same place, but doing like completely different jobs in different departments. I think one of the biggest things that people face now, if you're like 18 now, when you were 15 to 17 years old, you were in the middle of a lockdown for like 2 years. So you didn't get to socialize in the same way. So I think that a lot of people still experience like kind of social anxiety and loneliness as a result of the way that the UK government handled the pandemic. They kind of did lots of stuff too late, but then also they were really contradictory because they were making us all stay in our houses and we couldn't go outside for more than 1 hour a day, which is the right thing to do. But then the people that are in power now, the right-wing Tory party, it's all came out in the news in the last couple of years that they were having like parties and stuff, and they were having meetings, and there was even like one person who was having an affair with another person and they got caught like snogging on camera and stuff. There's a lot of kind of disillusion in the UK at the moment and like a lack of trust in the government, but they still keep getting voted in as well. They think like opinion polls say that they might be swinging back to Labour this time, which would be the first time in about 15 years. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard being a young person in this country at the moment and having that ambition, and also just having like kind of the social confidence to get out and grab what you want in life.
I do want to backtrack a little bit because you moved into like full-time musicianship. I did that for like a few years or so. Granted, now my second job, I work at a venue. I book bands there. I put on events there. But I'm curious, do you face any challenges moving from part-time musician now to full-time musician?
The challenges got very big very quickly because we got offered the world tour with Frag Turner, and then it started with a tour of the UK, and then it was going to be Europe, and then it was going to be America. And we left our jobs. Our bass player and our drummer, they left positions where they could go back to their jobs if needed be. I was like the sole events organizer at a students' union, which means when I left, I was replaced. It's not like I could just go back and do shift work or anything. And we left work to tour the world. And then because of a rise in COVID cases in the UK, the whole first tour, so our whole first like 3 months of work got cancelled. So suddenly we were sitting literally not knowing what to do. And we ended up like starting right from the beginning again. And we started by playing house shows, and we reached out. We had a very, very, very small fan group of maybe 300 or 400 people at the time called Fractured Party People. And we reached out to them and said, look, would you be up for opening up your houses, like being our promoters and putting on gigs like in your kitchens, in your living rooms, in your gardens? And we had to bring it right back to DIY. And I think that ethos kind of thing grew through everything we've done since. And we've tried to keep everyone as involved as possible and give people kind of that peek behind the curtain. 2 years in the future, like now, where we are now, the challenges of being a professional musician as opposed to being semi-pro. The biggest one, to be honest, Ian, is like that is a financial challenge, especially if you don't know where the work's coming from. Like you kind of rely a lot on support tours to, one, to be able to spread the word and get your music out there, but two, like just for work. And it always seems that at the start of the year, especially because people booking a support act, especially for big bands, usually is like the last thing on their agenda. Like they get everything else done first and they go, oh, we should have a support for this store as well. And then they kind of like book it in like really last minute, which means you're kind of like sitting there going, am I going to work next month or not? And if not, I don't know what to do. And we've kind of like, we have to think of creative merch ideas and things, or like, we have to try and think of different ways to make money. I'm having a conversation with our manager who's just been off for a couple of weeks, asking him that exact question, because you don't get wage, you don't get sick pay. And if you're not working, you're not earning. That bit is challenging. But then on the flip side, we've experienced so much of life in the last 2 years as well. And I kind of like look at it very pragmatically from a really kind of grateful perspective as well, that doing this as a job could end tomorrow. You never know. Hopefully it won't. Hopefully we can carry it on for as long as possible. But we've just been so lucky that we've already been able to have so many amazing experiences. And fingers crossed that continues.
I'm just kind of curious. What is like the craziest merch thing you guys have done to support yourself?
I can tell you a crazy plan if you want. I think this would be a bit of an exclusive. We have a new single on the album that is kind of a bit of a love song, but it's kind of a bit of a twisted love song called Separation Anxiety. It was the first song that kind of came, it was our first single that we dropped. And one thing that it mentions is it says, I missed you when you go downstairs to do your paint by numbers. And Lorna, my wife, has been doing paint by numbers for the last year or so, and she's become brilliant at them, but she doesn't want to put them up anywhere. But I know this is an audio podcast, but for for the listener, there's literally a box here. Can you see this?
Yes.
And like they're full of, I'll just like bring just like one out for now. Like they're full of incredible. I'm going to set this up. This is just one, but they're like gorgeous.
Oh, there we go.
And there's about 20 of them in that box already. And what we've decided to do is that, because Lorna didn't know what to do with them, but I think like as a piece of art, even though she's kind of like followed instructions how to do them, they're beautifully and they're amazingly done. So we're going to use these as the kind of backdrop for lyrics. So I can write lyrics over the top of them, and we're going to sell them as one-off pieces of art. And I think things that are unique, and especially this, because it feels kind of full circle, because it's something that's mentioned in a song, but then we can write the lyrics of the song over that as well. And also it's mine and Lorna's 10-year wedding anniversary this year. So it's going to be a little bit of a project between me and Lorna, raising funds for hopefully a holiday for a celebration for our 10-year wedding anniversary. That is the newest scheme. And that's an exclusive.
Woohoo. Speaking of art, is that a beans on toast art piece behind you?
That is a beans on toast thing. It says expensive art, which I really like. And that really splits opinion with people who don't know beans on toast, but are kind of into art, or even if they're not into art, they kind of come through the house and they're like, either people go, oh, that's genius, or they're like, why have you got that on the wall? It really splits opinion. But I bought that years ago. I bought that when I was, I still am, but when I was a big fan of beans on toast. And now we're pretty good friends, which is cool. When I first met him, I was still a little bit kind of intimidated by him, because he's quite a big character. And also he's someone that I'd looked up to as a songwriter for a long time. And we'd met a few times before, but we really connected when we were on the ship together, because he was on the Flogging Molly Salty Dog cruise as well. And we're having breakfast together quite a lot. But then I went to see him do this thing called a Songwriters Circle, where there were 3 songwriters all just kind of sharing music and sharing stories about their music. And I just saw his songwriting yet again in a brand new light. It's really lovely that I've got kind of a piece of his art from when I was a fan. And now I think I can call him a friend now, which is cool. But definitely a close associate, if not.
Yeah, my first time seeing Bean, I saw him, I think he was opening up with Frank Turner. He was back in like, I think 2013, 2014. I remember at that show, he said on a microphone that he went to Target like a half hour beforehand, bought like a pack of white shirts, just real beans on toast on, just sold them for like $20. It was just brilliant.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and talking to him at Lost Eden, that was my first time actually meeting him. He's just the sweetest person. Like, he has a big personality. He's just the sweetest person I've ever met before.
Yeah, he's so nice. And with these pieces of art that he's done as well, he says this in his book as well, so I'm not sharing any personal information. But over lockdown, when he didn't know what he was going to do for work, because obviously, like with all musicians, the most money comes in through doing live, really. he, for the first time, it's when I bought one as well, he put these online to sell. And he did, in 2 weeks, he did over £20,000 and ended up being able to put a deposit down on a house. And I think that kind of just shows how amazing community and like lots of people giving a little, because I think they were about £10 or something. They're reasonably priced as well. But like kind of a lot of people kind of giving a little can really lift them up, can really help them.
I just want to talk to you a little bit about the new album, which we've heard a couple songs from that you've released as singles in advance. You've got, like you mentioned earlier, Separation Anxiety, the punk rock love song with the wonderful dog references and the very like nice personal look into that anxiety that comes with love. And then there's The Optimist, which is a spoken word tour de force. And then now Sleep When I'm Dead.
Yeah.
It's so anthemic. And hearing these 3 songs specifically has me very curious to see what's coming out in the next 2 weeks. So thank you for that. I like to be intrigued, and you guys have succeeded with that. Is the album going to be a lot of different vibes, or are you guys experimenting with anything else that might come as a surprise, I guess?
I think the reason we wanted to put out singles are also different from each other as well. It's kind of to show that the album is going to have a lot of flavors. Our main aim when we started writing the album is that we just wanted to write what we described as just like wall-to-wall bangers, which is stuff that we really, really just wanted to play live. And I think the majority are kind of like that. It feels like an album that we could play from start to finish, and every single song like will be a great tune live. It has a little bit more shades to it than we like initially set out with, songs like The Optimist. And it does kind of like lean into a bit of spoken word stuff as well. And there's a couple of acoustic songs on there. So it definitely goes on a journey. But for me, it was kind of written within 4 weeks, but like split into 2-week chunks that were like my 2 most creative like fortnights of mine and my brother George's, like of our entire lives. Like we weren't meant to write an album this quickly. We were meant to be recording it now. So we're meant to be recording it in January of 2024. And we were only meant to start writing it kind of this time last year. And then we had 2 really intense weeks where so many ideas were flying. So it was 2 kind of really intense fortnight periods of complete creativity where I was bringing these ideas to my brother. He has a little home studio, and we'd be writing like 3 songs a week at least. It was so weird because this had never happened to us ever before. And for me, the best songs are the ones that are that kind of lightning in a bottle moment where kind of ideas come really, really quickly and it feels really organic. And this whole album is kind of that, to the point that I'm terrified about writing album 4 because I don't know if I'm ever going to kind of be able to repeat the experience that we had there. It was amazing. I'm so excited for people to hear it.
I'm excited to get all the copies I ordered shipped over. Your people over in the UK have been great about that too, because letting the American folks get involved in that push for the bottom of the pops, and hey, hopefully the top of the pops too.
Yeah, and that's so cool. Is it the fact that, number one, first, thank you for ordering so many copies. That's so kind of you. But I think the fact that we've had people from America and from Europe collaborating with people in the UK so they can buy through UK friends so that it all counts towards the charts, I think that's just an absolute testament to Fractured Party people as a community of people. The kind of complete collaborative approach just absolutely warms my heart and makes me feel really proud not to be part of this band, but to be part of that community.
Ian, do you have anything? Oh, we're going to kind of semi-pause here. Johnny, we're still working out the format. We're going to have some kind of like bullshit questions, which we haven't kind of figured out how we're going to work in yet.
Cool.
Just like dumb fun shit, like nothing serious. Ian, do you want to say surprise, motherfucker, in your best voice? Because I think that's the working title for this segment.
Surprise, motherfucker.
That is. We're just going to ask you a bunch of weird fucking questions, Johnny, put you on the spot.
Let's go.
And we're just going to come up with, like, we did not plan this. We didn't plan shit.
What is your guilty music pleasure?
I mean, I don't really have a really guilty music pleasure, but the thing that's come into mind at the moment is I think like Lemonade by Beyonce is one of the best albums ever written. I think that's absolutely amazing. I wouldn't describe that as a guilty pleasure because I think especially that album is kind of really critically acclaimed as well.
My man.
Yeah, man. There's a band called the Spice Girls, which are a UK female pop group. And that was the first single that I ever bought. And if that ever comes on at a party, like I'm over the moon. And we did a DJ set the other day and there was definitely some Spice Girls in there.
For a second, I was like, Lemonade, a guilty pleasure? And like, no, but like, no, yeah. That's such a good album. Did either of you watch that album release when it was on HBO, when they just played all the videos in a row?
Yeah, it's amazing.
Oh yeah, it's a tour de force. I'm gonna put you on the spot as somebody who has now been all over the U.S. with the most contentious U.S. food question there is. Johnny, you got to pick Chicago or New York pizza.
I think I'd say Chicago pizza, only because you can get oh man, I might be offending people all over the shop here, but you can get, it feels like you can get a lot of stuff that tastes like New York pizza outside of New York. And especially in the UK, you can get versions of New York pizza, something kind of similar. Whereas Chicago seems to be the only place that you can get Chicago pizza. You eat it, you don't have to, you don't need to eat for another week. That is for sure. And it does kind of weigh quite heavy when you eat it. But yeah, it's an experience. Chicago pizza.
Wait. To continue on with that question, Eddie, you know there's two styles of Chicago style pizza, right? So there's deep dish.
And you've got the thin one as well, yeah. So for me, Chicago pizza is, when I was in Chicago last time, we did have both styles. We stayed with our friend Tom, and he went to 3 different pizza places to get pizza for us to kind of try the different ones. But for me, when I think of Chicago pizza, it's kind of like eating a brick, basically. It's like this thick.
There is something just excessive about American food, as you have seen on your journeys. I'm so happy that I got to take you guys to Primanti Brothers, but how much of a fucking excess is that fucking sandwich?
It was amazing. I think the most amazing thing of it was the size of the pickle that came with it as well. That was incredible. We still have the little rubber duck, by the way, as well. It now sits proudly in our van.
Over there, you guys get normal portion sizes, right? It's not like people just filling your plate here like they do.
Not at all, and not really kind of refilling drinks either. You can sometimes have places with refillable drinks where you can go up and refill them, but having people kind of refilling your Pepsi or something, kind of walking around with a big jug, that's quite cool. But yeah, that sandwich, Ed, honestly, thank you so much again for bringing this there, because that is the best sandwich I've ever eaten in my whole entire life. Again, I needed a week of not eating afterwards because I was my gut was processing it all. But it was incredible. I went for the turkey one. It was amazing.
Here's my weird question. From everybody that I've met from over there, why do you guys all seem to like crappy American light beer so much when you're here?
I'm not too sure, to be honest, because a lot of the English beer that we have, it kind of we use American hops. So we use kind of mosaic hops and stuff. So there's a real kind of craft beer scene in the UK. And you can kind of buy magazines and beer subscriptions and all those kind of things. I don't know why, but I know that a lot of people just do go over and just drink Bud Light and things like that. I don't know, because we definitely have good beer over here in the UK.
So what is your favorite cheap American beer?
I don't know. I do drink quite a bit of Bud Light when I'm out there. But also the thing that kind of surprised me is when you go to a gas station and you can get the biggest can that I've ever seen in my whole entire life. It's about 3 times the size of a British can, which is is really fun. I think that's a really good example of American excess for sure.
One question I have for you is, who do you wish to tour with in the future? Who is your dream artist or band to tour with?
So I'm going to go 2 ways with this. I think my favorite artist to tour with, I'd really like to tour. I saw them on the Flogging Molly cruise, and I'd really like to tour with the Interrupters. They seem really fun, and they seem really nice people as well. And that would be a band that I'd love to hit the road with. But another artist that I want to tour with is a local Colchester artist and someone called Generation Feral, who is hands down my favorite artist of last year. She's absolutely amazing. And so many more people need to listen to her. And we're trying to kind of work out if we can find a way, because she goes to university over in Cardiff at the moment. So her ability to tour is really hard at the moment. But I've been racking my brains thinking, how can we get Generation Feral on tour as opposed to how can we tour with a big band that we can support? So yeah, too, I think the Interrupters would be amazing. And I definitely want to somehow in the future find a way for Generation Feral to tour with us as well.
Well, Johnny, thank you for being so generous with your time today. Give us a final sales pitch for Intermittent Fast Living and any shows you have coming up.
Intermittent Fast Living is the 3rd album by us, by Pet Needs. It's genuinely my favorite piece of art, piece of work, piece of music that we have ever created in our whole entire lives. I love it so much. We're doing a lot of touring in the UK to promote it. including a big album launch at Nottingham Rescue Rooms, which is our biggest capacity out of town venue that we've ever played. And then we're heading over to Europe to promote it as well. And then maybe, we never know, maybe we're heading over to the States as well.
Ian, you're looking forward to that, aren't you?
Oh yeah, I definitely am. If you need an
We'll be
opener,
at one of them. We'll
yeah.
be at one of them, wherever it is.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, and if we could do something together, Ian, that'd be awesome.
Johnny, it's always been a pleasure. Of course, I love everything Petney's is doing. Your new single, fantastic. It has such a good old Green Day vibe, and that from the jump, that fucking hooked me. I just love it. So I'm looking forward to seeing what else Petney's has to offer. And
oh, thank you so
I can't wait
much.
to see you guys back to the US.
Yeah, so good to see you both. Yeah, let's try getting some shows together when we do as well.
This show is the brainchild of Black Guy Fawkes, folk punk trio. You can find him on all the social medias as Black Guy Fawkes or Black Guy Fawkes Music, as well as on his website, blackguyfawkes.com. The intro and outro are both from the song New American Meltdown by Black Guy Fawkes, so that's legally covered because this is his podcast, and that is his song available on the album Life, Love, and the Bomb. Additional music elements provided by Fab Shop Music, a royalty-free music subscription service for podcast hosts and YouTube creators. More info at fabshopmusic.com. Sound design and editing by Ed Cunard, who appears courtesy of his dog and many, many cats. Cover art by Jacob Matthews, a pal who has been down since day one. Fawkes and Friends is hosted on Spotify for podcasters. Listen on Spotify for the best experience because we can't play everyone's songs in full legally anywhere else. Finally, while Fawkes and Friends firmly believes that punk rock is and should be a safe space, we know it can't be safe for everyone without excluding bad elements. So remember.
So tell your local Nazis and your fascists to fuck off.
I'm so gutted that I missed it at Lost Evenings. So it's such a shame. You were the one person that had a big ring around it, and then I was with friends for dinner, and dinner overran, and I kind of ran back to the venue just as you were finishing.
It happens,
So,
man. I cried for a little bit. It was racist, but I got over it. It's fine.
We finished recording, right?
Actually, no, we probably leave that in because that's funny.
Leave it in.